If you're on the lookout for a product that you could make in your workshop with relative ease, doesn't demand a high value, and has a proven track record for being popular at trade shows and craft shows, then stick around. I might just have the very solution for you. We're just back from a couple of shows, really successful shows, possibly the most successful we've been to yet. And I had quite a vast array of different product types on the stand, as you can see from the picture. Now, out of all of those that you would have thought people would have been attracted to based on what you want them to buy, I suppose, based on what you think is the best value for money on the product, given the amount of work that you know's gone into it, and they don't, the most successful product on the stand was a little catch-all tray. Not a bowl or a simulated pinch leather or an oval. A pussycat face and a puppy dog face were the most successful products on the stand. They completely sold out. Day one, I think there was one left, and I really wish I'd made some more. So in this video, I'm going to go through all the steps and show you how to make these, how easy they are, and how you can batch them out, make it as efficient as possible, given the fact that you've got a CNC. So this video is based on using a CNC in your workshop. If you're thinking about buying one, stick around. If you hate them, my apologies, but thanks for clicking on it to begin with. So, without further ado, the size of the blank that you're going to need to make one of these is 200 by 200 by 30 mil. So, I've made myself up a batch of timber. If you want to go and do that now, I'll grab a coffee and then we can go through VCarve and I'll show you exactly what to do while your glue's drying. So, start by opening VCarve Pro and choose a new job. Set your job dimensions to 200 on the X, 200 on the Y, 30 mil on the Z. My XY datum position is front left hand corner, and modeling resolution is set to 3 speed at high. Now the first thing I'm going to do is drag in some setup guidelines, and I want these at 6 mil from each edge, and the reason for that is I don't want my end mill going over that 6 mil gap, so that I don't gouge into my hold down pieces, my clamps. You'll see what I mean when I video the actual cutting. So that's the external size, the maximum size I want my image to be. Talking about images, let's go and get that. I've got a picture of a cat that I've already downloaded from Google. Feel free to use this, it'll be included in the pack on Etsy that I mentioned earlier. So I'm going to select my image. Then I'm going to click on the trace bitmap picture of a bird. No idea why it's a picture of a bird. I've got it in black and white, and I'm just going to drag it so it's a little bit thicker. You can see if you move this around, the size of the vector it's going to create gets that a little bit thicker, and I want it about there. Then I'm going to hit preview, apply, close, and then I'm going to go up to the layer drop down and turn off the bitmap, so I'm just left with the vector. Now you should notice that this tail portion here, we don't want, that's going to cause us a problem. It's going to elongate this side of the bowl, and that bit's going to be frankly useless to keep anything in. So I'm going to ungroup everything, deselect, and then I'm going to select the tail, hit delete, and regroup everything back together again so that I can size it and place it accordingly. So select the image, hit F9 to centralize it, and the first thing that I'm going to do now is to draw my perimeter, the outline of the tray itself. To do that, I'm going to use the offset button, and I'm going to make an offset of about 50 mil. Now if I zoom out a little bit and show you, by making a big offset of such a huge size, 50 mil bigger than the image, then what I've made it do is smooth out everything, and you can see that all of these little bits now have become much less acute, so it's going to be far easier for me to get in there with sandpaper or a spindle sander just to smooth these out if I need to after the cut. So I'll close that window, go back and select the vector that it's just drawn, and I'm going to resize it down so that it comes to just inside of these guidelines that I've hit, which should be about 188. And notice that I've got link XY enabled so that it keeps the relationship between the two. So that's nearly about there. I'm just going to manually alter that myself by just dragging that down. We'll drag that one in, drag that one up, and that one's fine. So there's my outside shape. To make the inside wall, we need to use the offset tool again, and I want the wall about 8mm. Perfect. There's the inside and outside wall of the bowl. We're nearly ready to head on over and make a toolpath, but the last thing that I want to do is just resize this little image, because I don't want that cutout to be too close to the wall. So I'm just going to play around with it a little bit. Cool, quite happy with that. Now we're going to have to alter this image a little bit because these eyes aren't going to come out very well, but I'll show you what I mean before I do that. So let's head over to the toolpath. We need to make the inner pocket cut first. So I'll choose the pocket cut toolpath, select that inner wall. I'm going to set the bowl depth to 20mm. Remember, I've got my material depth 30mm, so that's going to give me a 10mm base. Be nice and solid. Probably get away with an 8mm base. So let's go 22mm depth. I'm using a Whiteside bowl and tray bit. I'll leave a link to that bit below in the description. It's 3/4 of an inch wide. Passes I'm going to edit because it's given me 3.6mm pass, which I think is a bit much. I'm quite happy with the 2mm pass. So I'll leave it to 2mm. I'll leave it in offset mode so it cuts in a anti-clockwise circular direction, and I'm going to keep ramp plunge moves enabled at a distance of 10mm. I'll call this main pocket and hit calculate. We'll just preview that quickly. Looks pretty darn good. Okay, so back to 2D view, and now we're going to do the actual carve. So for the carve, I've got my start depth at 22mm, exactly the same as the depth for the bowl and tray bit. I'm going to set a flat depth of 1.5mm, so that will be the maximum that this bull nose cutter that I'm using is going to cut to, regardless of the width of the portion that it's cutting. And as to the bit I'm using, again, link will be below. It's an Armani tapered bull nose bit. I'm going to leave all the defaults for that as they are, and then I'm going to hit calculate. So if I hit play, that's what it's going to give me. If I hover my mouse over that section, you can see it's about 1.5mm, about 1.5mm. So that's the max, that's what the flat depth has given me. If I go back again and turn flat depth off, hit recalculate, you can see it's going to go too deep. So flat depth on 1.5mm. Now I don't like these bits here, and that's purely based on the size of the area that it's cutting out. So I'm going to take out these bits there and there, and these little bits there that quite frankly make the cat look like it's got a snotty nose. So let's close out of the toolpath screen. Let's go back over to the 2D view. In order to do this, we need to ungroup again. And then I can select the eye that I want to work on, or the area that I want to work on, and whip into node edit mode. Now this is absolutely fantastic. I'm going to cut out a portion of this, so on that node there I'm going to select it and hit cut, and that one and hit cut. So that just leaves me this portion here which I don't want, So I'm going to bin that, and then I'm going to drag this node over to there, insert another point, bring that back in line, bring that back in line. Now I want to get rid of this silly bend there, so I'll grab one of these arms, and I'm just going to play around with this until I get it about the size I want. And then I'm going to join these two up by telling it to move the endpoints. So if I deselect, I'm kind of getting there. I want to play around a little bit more. I want a couple more nodes, so I'm going to put one in there, drag that back over there. That's got a silly little bit on it. Let's pop another node in there, drag that back a bit. That's a bit better. Let's see if we can straighten this up a bit. That's a bit square. Let's pop a node in there, drag that down a little. Let's pop a node in there. I'm going to drag that down a bit. That down a bit. There, that's looking a lot better. And that'll give us the outline of the eye. And that'll look a lot nicer. So I'll do the same on this side. Exactly the same process. I'm just going to choose a bit to cut out. So let's see what that looks like. So I need to group them all up again. Sorry, still in edit mode. So I need to group them all up again, but I don't want those two outside bits. So I'll select everything and then deselect the two vectors that represent the wall, and then right click, group objects, and we can go back into the VCarve, check all the settings are the same, recalculate, reset the preview and preview all. Much better around here, but a bit too wide there, and there still. So let's deal with that quickly. There. Nice little pussycat. Regroup. Hopefully last time. Excellent. Happy with that. So the last thing I want to do is the outside profile. So profile toolpath. I've got a 30mm board, so I'm going to cut to 25mm. I'm going to use the standard 1/4 inch 6mm spiral bit. 10mm passes I'm happy with. Sorry, 2mm passes. 10mm pass. Blimey. This needs to cut on the outside of the vector. Don't need tabs, but I do want a ramp, smooth ramp at 20mm, and I'm going to call this outside profile. Calculate and preview. Looking good. So the last thing I'm going to do is save toolpaths, all of them, and I want to save visible toolpaths to multiple files because I've got 3 different end mills, and I'm going to call these cat catch-all tray by 30mm. Main pocket, VCarve, outside profile. So the main pocket is going to be my first cut, VCarve my second, and outside profile my third. So that's all the hard work done. Let's head over to the CNC, go through the little bit of setup and start cutting. So here's my little CNC setup right down the bottom end of the workshop. And as you can see, I use the micro jig clamp system for my hold downs to keep my workpieces in place. And I've got a couple of, I think they're old miter slot rails from Incra, I believe, that I use for a fence. So I clamp everything against the fence to keep it in place, so I don't have any hold down clamps on top of the workpieces, which allows me to use a workpiece that's slightly smaller because I don't need that extra bit around it for the hold down. I hope that makes sense. So I'm going to put these couple of little bits of ply in just to make sure my end mill doesn't pop out from the outside of the workpiece and gouge into anything. And then I'm going to take my 200 by 200 mil blank, slightly oversized, and I'm going to clamp it in to place using these little 3D printed plates that I made. And that's it. I'm clamped, good to go. And because of this fence setup, I can guarantee that every single piece is going to go in exactly the same place. I've just changed back to the bowl and tray bit. I'm now just going to reset my Z0. Now back to work 0 just to prove everything. I'll leave the dust shroud off so you can see what it's doing through this first run, but then on subsequent runs I'll put the dust shroud back on again, otherwise I'm going to get mess absolutely everywhere.
The idea is that I run all of the pieces through with the bowl and tray bit in, because they're
all of exactly the same height, exactly the same size, and they're all going to be in exactly the same place. I don't have to worry about resetting any XYZ zeros. I can just swap the piece out each time, run the job again and again and again, and then I'll end up with a pile of pieces all ready to roll. While the second, third, fourth and subsequent pieces are being cut, then I can sand out the inside of the bowl itself so that they'll all be ready for cut number 2. So that's the last one. I've got a stack of pussycats and a stack of puppy dogs, and I'll desperately try not to mix them up. So each time I took one off, put the next one on and set it going, I used that little bit of time just to sand the inside of the bowl, get rid of any tool marks that were left. So I've changed my end mills and I've popped in the Armani tapered ball end bit that I'm going to use for the VCarve. I've reset my Z0, and now I'm going to run the VCarve job. Okay, so on to the third and final cut on the CNC, the outside profile. I've swapped out the end mill for the 6mm spiral cut, and I've reset the Z height. So while each one of those is cutting, I'm going to utilise that time and just remove the waste material from the outside on the bandsaw. Now I know what you're thinking, I could have used tabs and just broke them off. Yeah, you're dead right, I could have. I'd still have a bit of clean-up to do, but you'd be right, it'd be quicker doing it that way. I kind of like this way. No other reason for it, really. A quick whiz around the outside on the spindle sander just to get rid of any tooling marks that might be left. Now I'm going to run round inside and outside edges and the bottom edge with a 3.2mm round over bit just to soften that edge that's on it, so it's a little bit sharp for my liking. Then a little light touch with a bit of 180. Job's a bobby, ready for some finish. Now I'll just do that another 15 times and I'll be there. And last but not least, a spot of finish, bit of mineral oil, just to bring out that beautiful puppy dog and pussycat smiley face. And that's it. Yet another batch of pussycats and puppy dogs ready to go to their brand new forever homes. A really simple project, guys, that's well worth having a crack at if you've got a CNC in your workshop and you want to try and make some dosh out of it. Seriously recommend having a go at this. Really not that difficult. But if you don't fancy all the picture hunting and node editing yourself, all the files you need to do this I'll put together in a little pack and I'll stick on my Etsy shop for a couple of quid or something, just enough so that you'll get that warm fuzzy feeling of knowing you've supported this fantastic growing channel. Thanks very much indeed for watching. I hope you liked the video. If you did, thumbs up, subscribe, all the clicky bits down below. Hope to see you again next time. Ta-ra.